pliers and a blowtorch and get it out of you. Which is the more cost-effective, which is the more practical attack? Giving up your public key does not reduce the security of your system.
Or I could just buy your
But
everybody has
Yes.
a price.
Everybody does have a price, but you know what? $10 at a Walmart for a pair of pliers and a blowtorch is cheaper than your price.
but what about data mining? You can see social networks and so on based on the signatures of your public key.
If you're just communicating with one person, well, the signatures don't need to be public, but it's the giving up of your public key information does not decrease the security by
Yeah.
Kirchhoff's assumption. That's all I'm saying. And
Yeah.
the way that's phrased makes it kind of questionable. So
In addition, you can turn off the key ID in the message, so you can still the attacker can still look at the public key and see whose key signed whose key, but he can't identify what key was used to encrypt this message. So it's
Entirely true.
yeah, not entirely true, but we're not even considering those classes of attacks here. I'm just talking about in terms of being able to break the system or not side channel attacks for information gathering or data mining, just in terms of can I take the public key and turn it into the private key. There's no real security benefit. And that's all I'm saying. And if you want to talk about other types of attacks or data mining or how to use your keys in a safe and responsible format, that's one thing, but saying don't give up your public key because then, oh my God, somebody can break into your system, it's kind of irresponsible.
Maybe one remark to that. If you're really paranoid, of course you have to assume the algorithm is broken as well. Just you don't know it because half of
Yeah,
mathematics
and you shouldn't
work
be
for
using
NSA.
PGP
so I
because
of course
PGP is
assume
backdoored.
the algorithm is broken. Try to keep as much from the prying eyes, and so I'm a little bit safer if I assume.
If you're that paranoid, you should be using one-time pads and distributing the keys yourself and not using a computer because of, trusted computing platforms and gremlins in the silicon and, there's so many, all I'm saying is there are so many other more plausible and more likely points of failure, you shouldn't be worrying about this. And by worrying about this, you're just taking your attention away from where it really matters and you're losing security overall. So let me just finish up with the conclusions and then we can talk a little more about this as we go into the key signing party. Current good key signing practice doesn't let us use pseudonyms, doesn't let us use organizations, companies, anything like that, and it doesn't let us use informal social networks, which we use on a day-to-day basis in order to have basic social interactions with other people. How many people here believe my name is actually Seth Hardy? Without seeing a photo ID, how many people here care? Who cares? Okay, we have one guy in the whole room that cares. Whether I call myself Seth or whether I call myself Ultra Laser, it doesn't matter. As long as you know that I'm Ultra Laser, then the key is still valid. And it doesn't so much matter about the specifics of the name on the key as long as you're able to verify the identity binding. And the identity is me. It's this abstract concept. It's kind of like a bubble around me. You're like, hey, it's that guy that ranted for a while with a bottle of tequila in front of a few hundred people. It has nothing to do with my name. It has nothing to do with my photo ID. It doesn't even have anything to do with my email address unless you specifically want to email me. So right now, we can't use any of these things. There are contradictions and blatantly wrong information in the official documentation, and there are people who refuse to participate in key signing parties because people who want to go by pseudonyms will not show their IDs or will show their IDs like, I have a friend, he goes by Mangala. That's not his name, but that's what everybody knows him by. So, why should he have to show his ID? Why should he have to deal with people not signing his key because he doesn't want to show a photo ID because it's just not relevant? And things like this are damaging the web of trust, and it's preventing it from having the same sort of social domination that, say, MySpace does. Everybody's using MySpace. I hate it, but everybody is using it. Everybody knows that it is a social network. MySpace.com, look it up for yourselves. It's not worth talking about, okay? Not worth talking about. So there's just so many better ways of doing this, and people are actively blocking out large chunks of valid information by refusing to accept certain types of information that it can be verified, but just not by a piece of shiny plastic with a government seal on it. And in the end, you have to trust something, whether it's the government to issue legitimate IDs. You know, if somebody, you look at their ID and you're still not sure because you're like, well, this ID is kind of peeling on the corner. Is it really them? Do you ask for the person's birth certificate? Do you go talk to the person's parents? Do you look at the person's parents and be like, well, your mom has your nose, so she gave you her nose. You have your dad's eyes, but I still don't know, if it was like your dad or the milkman because of, the features of his chin. Like, where do you draw the line? Where you have to trust something eventually. And there's always a way to attack it. You just have to decide, okay, this is good enough. It would be more feasible for somebody to come after me with a pair of pliers and a blowtorch than to try to fake things this way, so I'm going to trust it. It's good enough. Social reputations are more fault tolerant, but they don't have pieces of plastic with a shiny government seal on it. And people prefer one to the other, and I think this is wrong. And this is, whether you agree with this or not, that's your choice. It's just something to consider. So can you trust something you can't verify with your own two eyes? Maybe I'll keys the primary user ID. If you intend on talking to other people in person, it should be a photo ID, and everything else is additional information. But, why don't you trust what you think you should trust, what you see with your own two eyes, what you think your judgment says this is good, rather than, well, the GPG key signing party how-to says I should do this, so I'm going to do it blindly without even thinking about it. So make your own decisions. Sign things that you think are accurate. Do your own research. Remember that there are different levels of trust verification. When you sign somebody's key, you can say I've done casual or I've done very careful research into the information presented. Do your research, sign your keys appropriately, and don't automatically discount certain ideas for doing verification just because the how-to says it's bad or just because some guy at a key signing party says it's bad. So that's what I've got. If there are any other questions, well, we're going to be doing the key signing party right now, so I'll be around. Is there anything else before we finish? Any other questions that people had? Policy links are great. Nobody uses them. That's a shame. That's all I got. People should use them. Read up on policy links and keep your websites accurate. It's a good thing, but nobody uses them, unfortunately. Congratulations. Excellent.
It seems to me there is like several problems with this signing stuff that you brought up. I've been using PGP for 10 years, and you brought up things I hadn't thought of. Like when I sign someone's key, I would like to also be able to know if I sign it because I saw his photo ID, or because I know him, or because I've met him several times. Everyone thinks he's that identity. If I think it's a real name or a nick and stuff like that. But the keys doesn't contain that kind of information.
At the Hope key signing party, you said you've been using PGP for 10 years? Is your key 10 years old?
Yeah, because I haven't had much use
Okay,
of it, so I
well,
haven't
I'm not
bothered
going to sign your
update it.
key.
No, because I don't use
guy,
it anymore.
There was a guy at the Hope key signing party who said, well, your key, to one of my friends, the Miles guy that we mentioned before, his key was like something like 8 years old, and somebody told him, your key's been around for 8 years, you must have had some sort of server compromise with the machine that your key was on over the last 8 years. Your key's too old, I'm not going to sign it. Like, how do you make that arbitrary of a decision? So, I'm not going to sign your key because it's 10 years old. I don't know. I got nothing. Yes?
I just wanted to add that probably the key is too short to be used today anyway, if it's 10 years old.
There were a lot of people back then who were like, I hacked my copy of PGP so I can use 10,000-bit keys. Like, people were really proud of their 10,000-bit long keys. Yeah. Yes, I agree. But the key length is important. But are there any other questions, or are we done here? All right, thank you very much.